Great. So thank you for joining us, everyone. Maybe I'll start off immediately just by handing over to Meredith Harris from the MEDC.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate everybody taking the time, on a Wednesday at 7 o'clock to join us. We've got a lot of folks here represented, across the Donald Lynch Boulevard area. We have a couple of counselors with us as well. We have President Ossing, also Councilor Rob Tenera and Councilor John Irish. So I appreciate you guys being here. We've got a great group of people and really look forward to the conversation that's going to be had tonight. This has been something we've been talking about for several years, so we're really excited to be moving this forward. Josh, I don't think was involved a couple of years ago when we kind of started this conversation, but I'm excited to be bringing it back to the table and understanding that the future is uncertain. We really just want to get some feedback from you folks about what we can do to help position this area of the city for future growth. So with that, Josh, I'm going to turn it right back over to you, and we'll get started.
Great. Thank you so much, Meredith, and welcome everyone. Thank you again for taking the time this evening. My name is Josh Fial. I'm with MAPC. I'll get into a little bit more of an introduction in a moment. But just first, I want everyone to know that this evening we are recording this meeting. We will be processing it and submitting it back to the city to post on the website for any stakeholders that couldn't join us this evening. They'll have the ability to view this recording and get connected to the process. So hopefully everyone's okay with that. If you're not, then you can mute yourself and turn your video off and still participate. So again, as Meredith said, this is a first meeting of stakeholders, a community meeting around the Donald Lynch Boulevard and the surrounding area, and thinking about a future vision for that area. So thank you very much for joining us as we embark on this process together. So our meeting this evening is pretty straightforward. We'll give a brief welcome and introduction, and then allow you all to let us know who's out there in the room, which is a little more difficult in these virtual times, but I'm sure we all have the hang of it now. And then I'll give a brief introduction to the study area just to frame our conversation. But really our focus this evening is to hear from you. We're starting off with you all muted just for some safe meeting protocols, but we will get the chance to hear both literally your voices if you'd care to participate in that way, but we also have some interactive polling questions which you can partake in throughout the presentation. So we're here to gather your feedback as we start this study and really hope to get an understanding from you where we should head with it. So just a few logistics. Again, the meeting is being recorded. Once we get past this initial series of introductions, we will have some time for some engagement. We'll request that people unmute themselves if they have a comment or question, and then we'll make that happen for you. Please do turn your video on if you're participating. It's great to see faces in our little squares. And then if you have a comment, you can raise your hand if you do have your video on. Literally just raise your hand in your screen and we'll make sure that we recognize people. Or you can use the raise your hand function in Zoom by going to the participants panel. You should have that option available to you. And then if you can, when we're in those moments, please try to keep your comments succinct to allow as many voices as possible to be heard. So thank you for considering all those logistics. And then we'll move into some welcomes and introductions. We've heard from Meredith and MEDC. Again, my name is Josh Fiala. I'm a principal planner at MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. We're the regional planning agency for the Boston metropolitan area, including the City of Marlborough. We're pleased to be back, helping the city on planning efforts. We provide planning assistance to all the 101 communities within this region and have been, involved in planning efforts in Marlborough in the past, including the mixed use downtown zoning, the work on the Wayside District on Route 20, multifamily guidelines across the city. So, familiar with the city and really enjoy being a part of your forward-thinking approach to the planning of these different districts in the city. I'm an urban planner and architect by trade, and look forward to bringing those skills to bear in this effort. So thanks for having us. So what is this all about? We are assisting the city in our capacity as the regional plan agency and MEDC to proactively plan for the success of the Donald Lynch Boulevard area. And the overarching objectives that sort of mark that success, what we're looking to do is strengthen the district as a destination within the city, which it is today, of course, but how can it remain relevant as a destination in the future? Enhancing a vibrant and walkable district that attracts a new generation of investment and activity and remains vibrant for the city. And then also continuing this area as a source of tax revenue for the city. So those are some objectives that we're trying to zero our recommendations in on. A little more context for the area. Of course, the Donald Lynch Boulevard area includes the Solomon Pond Mall, amongst other attractions and properties. Of course, it's not just that area. But we did want to highlight that one of the contexts for this study is the changing context of suburban retail. And this is some data from a recent Cushman and Wakefield study and analysis that they provided over the summer. So it had the benefit of understanding the COVID circumstances which we're all living with. And they noted that enclosed malls are being much harder hit than outdoor mall centers or shopping centers, and that many suburban malls are convenient to highways and well situated to be redeveloped for different purposes. We've seen that over the years, even pre-COVID, but those trends are tending to be accelerated now with retail tenants specifically having difficulty with the various closings and healthcare and health pandemic procedures that are in place. But the mall really of the past, in many contexts, we've seen become the town centers and suburban centers of the future. And we have some case studies this evening that we'll share that show how that has been done in other places. And then just a little more context, and you can see on this chart that's on the screen, the vacancies sort of across those trend lines have always been there and have been increasing, but those increases have been getting a little steeper as we get towards present day. But it will be potentially more of the same of that trend line. And then in terms of the context of suburban growth more generally, nationwide, millennials have been the largest group of home buyers for the past 3 years. They're more likely than any other age group to buy homes in the suburbs. And they're finding attractive suburban locations to offer amenities which are similar to the city center. So walkability and bikeability are important features, access to multiple modes of transportation, including walking and biking, and then looking for amenities in entertainment venues, experiential retail, and food options. Demographic forces will continue to drive strong migration to the suburbs. And today, nearly half of all millennials are 30 years old or older, the oldest of which are approaching 40. And the median age to buy a home is 33. So you're seeing that very large demographic of millennials at that peak age where they're making decisions about where to set down roots and how places like the Donald Lynch Boulevard in Marlborough or other parts of Marlborough for that matter could be weighing into those decisions that they're making. So enough about that brief context. I'll get into a little more details in the study area in a moment. But while we're in this welcome period, I did want to invite you all to participate this is a polling feature that I'll be featuring throughout the evening tonight. So it would be great if you would humor me and open up a separate internet browser window if you could. And then in that browser window, you can go to pollev.com/mapcmtg. And that's how you'll connect to the poll feature. You can also, if you open up the chat in the Zoom, I've posted the link in the chat. And you can just click on that link and it should take you to the spot that I'm talking about. So hopefully you're all able to do that now. And then I'm going to go to the next slide and you should be able to interact with the question on that slide. So first, just simply getting a feel for who's out there with us this evening. What is your name and connection to the Donald Lynch Boulevard area? If you wish to participate in that, it would be great and helpful. And as you all begin to respond, we should be able to see that collectively on the screen, and the answers should pop up that you're putting in through your internet browser at home.
Josh, I'm not sure if it's just me, but I can't see the link in the chat.
Oh, you cannot see a link in the chat. Let me post it in again. I posted it before the meeting started, so maybe I was a little too eager. Can people see that one now? All right. Yeah, so you can click on that link and type it in, and hopefully we'll start to see some of those responses. I've used this poll everywhere technology in quite a few meetings since last spring, and I've had it fail on me once, so we'll see. Fingers crossed it goes well tonight. Let me just go back to this slide and see. Don't see any responses submitted yet. All right, so maybe we will.
Maybe we just have a shy group, which is
yeah. Well, if you don't want to do that, or if it's not working for you, so it looks like some people are responding, but yeah, you can also put it in the Zoom chat if you'd like. That's another way for it to work. Looks like people have responded, so maybe we are having a little trouble with this at the moment. We'll see if it recovers on a later question in the presentation. Yeah, so let's improvise, and if you would like, so just so other people in the meeting can see who's present, you can put that information also in the Zoom chat. So if people want to open up the Zoom chat, they could see that. Any information that you've entered through Poll Everywhere, I will be able to see eventually as I go through into the program. So I'll be able to gather that data, and I appreciate you entering it however you can, just so we can get a good collection of the stakeholders present this evening. So thank you for that. Who we're looking to connect with are property owners, businesses and tenants, residents around the area, city councilors who we have present and were recognized by Meredith, members of the Urban Affairs Committee on the council, planning board members who will be reaching out with separately as well, Marlborough Economic Development Corporation with Meredith, and then we also will be reaching out to the town of Berlin is also on our list of folks to get in touch with. And if you have others, specific stakeholders that you think would be valuable for us to connect with in the beginning of this process, you can also enter those suggestions in the chat. That would be useful for us as well. So I'm just going to go through a brief introduction so we're all talking about the same area and on the same page, and hopefully maybe even give you a few insights into the district as well. First, a little bit about our study. So here's the scope and project work plan. We're really in task 1 right now, where we're looking at study foundations and current conditions, trying to gather an understanding of the stakeholders, and looking at some information about the existing district, GIS data, assessors data, and the like. And then ultimately, with your contributions this evening, we're looking to craft a district vision statement, which will guide our work in the remaining tasks. In task 2, we'll be looking at land use and zoning goals and strategies, thinking about which parcels are more or less likely to develop over the long term or redevelop, looking at the existing zoning and reviewing that in detail, and then putting together some recommendations based upon the vision for the district, how the zoning may be inconsistent with that vision today, and make some recommendations as to how that could be rectified. And then we'll also be looking at public realm and multimodal goals and strategies, and how those strategies could be integrated into recommendations for the district to improve those aspects of it as well. And then all of that will be wrapped into a report and action plan for the city to act upon. The study will continue over the next 6 or 8 months, concluding in about the beginning of summer, around June of 2021. You can see that we'll have a few other opportunities to engage with stakeholders, both in meetings such as this one, but also in sessions with the City Council eventually. And we'll be moving along through each of those tasks as we advance through those meetings. So we're at that first yellow star in November, working through this process here. The study area is centered on the Donald Lynch Boulevard corridor up in the very northwest corner of the city. It doesn't include only that portion of the northwest corner of the city. It includes a little bit more than the Donald Lynch Boulevard area with 495 and 290. You can see it highlighted there on the map of the city overall. It's a quite large district in terms of thinking about it from a walkability and bikeability perspective. It's about 3 miles long, that area, about 3/4 of a mile wide. You can see a little more zoomed in area with the road network of the district and the existing buildings highlighted. But it also includes south to Robin Hill Street, and then also east of 495. And the reason we did that is because it aligns with the limited industrial district of the zoning. So I'll show you that in a moment. But this is effectively looking at an area which might be a little bigger than what we make recommendations for, specifically to zoning in the end. But we want to make sure that we were looking at all the options as we started this study. There's an overall aerial of the district, which hopefully you're all pretty familiar with, but you can see some of the features of the district there with commercial uses, the mall, the hockey rink, and all sorts of uses in between, with Donald Lynch Boulevard between them, the parking features. And then south of 290, of course, it's a much more wooded and less developed set of properties. There's just a snapshot of a 3-dimensional aerial to give you a scale of feel for the scale of the buildings, with the Azabet River snaking through just by the target there. Another aerial. And some more as you get to the eastern side of the Donald Lynch Boulevard with the New England Sports Center. So what we're all hoping for is that the district plan will generate guidance to provide coordinated immediate actions that the city can undertake to improve the public realm. So the physical conditions of the district, whether that be sidewalks, bike lanes, the street network, and really look at ways of the public infrastructure that are controlled by the city that could be leveraged for improvements. Then also looking at strategies for future development investments, identifying zoning changes that might facilitate that development, and looking specifically at transformative development opportunities, however that might take shape based upon your input. And then also looking for ways to improve parking, but also walking and biking in the district. And it really is looking at overall an economic development strategy that's consensus driven and also actionable for the city. So here's the study area again. We've created a simple 3-dimensional model of the study area to help us in this study and the work. As I mentioned, it is a little large in terms of, sorry, skip past that. the walking distance, and it looks like for some reason I had some circles on this map that are not showing up, but the radii that are struck there, you can see the half-mile distance, is the typical distance that you would expect someone to walk between destinations. Typically, it's for the distance someone would be willing to walk to a transit stop. And that's about a 10-minute walk. And with the 3-mile stretch of the distance of the study area here, that's about an hour walk. So it's not the most walkable distance where you could expect someone to say, come from one of the residences on the east side of 495 and take a walk down to Solomon Pond Mall. I'm sure that some people may on a weekend at some point do that, but it's not something that you're going to ask of people every day. Biking is a little bit different story. You can make that distance in 12 minutes or so on a bike. That's a little more effective and efficient. But this is a large study area is the point on this slide. We also have, I would think of the study area breaking down into 2 main sub areas. Of course, that core area around Donald Lynch Boulevard is just that. It's the main feature of what we're looking at. It includes 56 parcels for a total of 257 acres. That's the area in blue on the map, basically north of 290 and west of I-495. The average size of those parcels is 4.6 acres. 9 of them are owner occupied. The others have owners which have mailing addresses not at the property. And there are 24 buildings on those properties. The total value of which of the value of the buildings and the land are 203 million, give or take. And the largest owner is LaRue Renfro with the New England Sports Center. The outer area, which you can see in the green, which would be on the east side of 495 and south of 290, it's about 35 parcels, 408 acres, so a lot more land. The average size of those parcels is larger, 11 acres on average. And then 14 of those, more of those are owner occupied. Those include city properties as well. And there's 15 buildings on those parcels, so less building occupation and less value at 84 million. The Hillside School is the largest property owner in those parcels. So a little bit about the land use in the district. It's the largest land use, if you group them together as we did, of municipal, institutional, or utility properties, are that light turquoise color. And that's 31% of the properties. So that does include things like the Hillside School and some other properties around the district, some of which are city owned, some of which are utility owned properties. The next largest is office and research and development, the red tone, which is 19% of the properties. You can see those clustered along the Donald Lynch Boulevard corridor, and some just south of the I-290 on the west side of that outer area. And then vacant property is next. That's the light gray, 13%, followed by residential, multifamily. I guess that's residential, which is not single family is the best way to put that. That's 11%. And then 10% is retail, which includes the mid box and big box and Solomon Pond Mall retailers all along Donald Lynch Boulevard. So you can see the mix there. I think it's an interesting mix, which might, I think, on your first impression of what the corridor and district are about, has potentially less retail than you might initially think. So the zoning map of the city is on the screen. And so you can see how we're following along with the LI, the Limited Industrial District, to make sure that we're considering all options in terms of how the zoning recommendations might play out for this study. So that's really what's deriving the area that we're looking at. In that district, you have a minimum lot area of 2 acres under the zoning today, minimum lot frontage of 200 feet, side, rear, and front yards, as you can see. The maximum height is a sliding scale, which is measured in feet from the nearest residential zone. So if you're 0 to 150 feet away, it's a 30-foot height. 151 to 250, 36 feet, and then it goes up from there, up to 52 feet maximum. The maximum lot coverage is 60%. That includes buildings and parking. And then there's, I won't go through each of these in detail, but this gives us just a feel for the context of what is or isn't allowed today. So as you tell us in this evening's conversation, where you think the district should be heading, we'll be checking those ideas against these use tables in the zoning today, just to see if there's adjustments that need to be made, so that where people would like things to go is allowed under the zoning. So you can see the uses which are allowed by right on the screen. There are 29 uses allowed by right today. Those are geared mostly toward commercial, light industrial uses, manufacturing, warehousing, the types of uses which are a part of the district today. Not as much focused on residential uses though, by the way. Then there are some uses which are allowed by special permit, 24 of which you can see those on the screen. And those do include the retail uses, which are part of the corridor today. Hotels are also in this category, which there are 2 along the corridor today. And then restaurants, shopping malls, and some other uses which do exist. And then lastly, are uses that are not permitted today. There are 70 of which. I had to fit these onto 2 slides instead of 1. So you can see some of those uses listed here, including most of the residential uses, which I mentioned earlier. So that's single family homes, 2-family homes, multifamily dwellings. Mixed use development is also on this list. Medical office, clinic. So some things which may want to be reconsidered, but we'll see. It depends on, I think, on how all your conversations, what they lead us to. And here's a continuation of those uses not permitted today under current zoning. So this introductory presentation is almost concluded. So I just wanted to share a couple more items with you. The circulation today is focused on Donald Lynch Boulevard. It's a 4-lane boulevard with a median, a landscape median at its center, which occasionally gives way to a turning lane. That is in contrast to Robin Hill Street. So you can see several of the images from Donald Lynch Boulevard on the screen. Robin Hill is a much more sort of rural street with 2 lanes that are, relatively narrow, in fact, and on a quite wooded street. So that opens up occasionally, like around the Hillside School in terms of the woods, but the street characteristic is pretty consistent. And then we did take a quick look at the circulation aside from auto circulation, and there are sidewalks and paths available on Donald Lynch Boulevard, but not for its entire length. And you can see the darker blue is when those sidewalks and paths exist on both sides of the road. The lighter blue is where they exist on one side of the road. And then where you don't see any blue, there is no sidewalk present today. So other streets beyond Donald Lynch Boulevard in the district, it's hard to find other access for pedestrians or bikes, and particularly with the narrow right-of-way that I just noted for Robin Hill. And then on Donald Lynch Boulevard, it would, even though it's a longer distance, as I noted, it would be very beneficial to circulation by bike or on foot if these sidewalks were continuous and connected. So that'll be something we're considering through this work. And then last, a little bit of a note about parking. So you can see all the parking fields on this map now in the darker gray around the buildings. And you can see quite a bit of parking. I haven't done a calculation on the number of parking spaces yet, but there's a lot of impervious parking area in that lightly gray shaded core area, which I mentioned earlier. So 3 million square feet of impervious area in that area. That's 22% of the land area there in that core area is devoted to parking today. Overall, that number is increased with the whole study area we're looking at, but not at the same rate. Of course, there's much less parking occurring outside of that core area. So you get up to 4 million square feet of total impervious area. Most of that is coming from the office development, which is on the west and southern side of I-290. And there are some wonderful natural assets in the area as well. So the Azabet River winds through the district and kind of heads out through. There are some conservation areas and open space lands, some of which are on the Berlin side of things. And then there are some water features as well. So the Millam Reservoir is a part of the drinking water system, the Muddy Pond, the Howell Pond land, and then the Hillside School itself is a resource in terms of some of those open space features. So I just had, this is the last thing, a few case studies just to whet our appetite a little bit in terms of how to think about these districts and what some other places around had been doing and thinking about. This sort of study, I think, fits into the context of what is in planning circles referred to as suburban retrofit. That may or may not be the best shorthand of description for this type of work, but that's kind of where many academics and others have landed. It generally refers to the evolution of suburban patterns, either through redevelopment, re-inhabitation, so repurposing of spaces, or regreening, thinking about various ecological, sustainable, or in some cases, resilience features for districts. Many examples exist nationally, some of which are kind of household names like Tyson's Corner Center in outside of DC, or Belmar in Colorado outside of Denver. But there are also many local examples. I'll highlight a few of those local examples, including Natick Mall, Mashpee Commons, and the Woburn Mall. So Mashpee Commons is out on the Cape, and it's actually one of the better known national examples of the reinvention of a suburban shopping mall. It was one of the first shopping centers to see this sort of retrofit to a mixed use, and also to alter street patterns. So the project replaced a 140-acre 1960s era family-owned shopping center, and it was, a typical center surrounded by parking. And now it's been reconfigured over years of redevelopment as several blocks of 1- and 2-story buildings with a walkable live-work neighborhood that's being built out adjacent to it. So this is the sort of conversion of a more traditional enclosed interior mall into a more exterior focused traditional block structure. And you can see how that looks on the ground here. So the stores define blocks with traditional street-lined, tree-lined streets, and they're modeled on a traditional New England village with wide sidewalks and on-street parking. So a completely different feel, and this has been around long enough that it's a well-known model and quite successful. Many of you have probably visited there yourself as on trips out to the Cape. Another study a little closer to home is the Natick Mall, and that sort of the investments which occurred around 2007 to move that toward what's now referred to as the Natick Collection, with investments by General Growth Properties, adding about 550,000 square feet with new anchors and specialty stores, restaurants to the existing 1.1 million square foot mall center. So that includes a 65,000 square foot lifestyle center called the Promenade. And this was actually modeled after work that General Growth had been involved with in Tyson's Corner in Virginia. It also included the addition of Nouvelle Natick, which it was 215 unit luxury condominium building. So expanding beyond the commercial and retail base of the mall development and really introducing a mixed use component. And that was a $170 million investment with 457,000 square feet. And then lastly, just to highlight a little bit different scale, a project MAPC was involved in recently in Woburn, the Woburn Mall, which was the conversion of another interior facing property into one that's more exterior. So this was recently acquired by Eden's LLC, who are property owners and developers with a few holdings in our region. And so this was a 244,000 square foot mall on a 23-acre site. And they're looking to reconfigure it as more of a lifestyle center that includes a 350 unit housing complex, a cinema, and some new shopping developments. And they're modeling that more on something like the Market Street in Linfield or Burlington's 3rd Street Avenue complex. And you can see some of the components of that there. So it's not quite the walkable New England Village. It still does have quite a bit of traditional suburban mall parking as part of its site plan, but you do see that they're starting to reinforce more of a walkable block structure and align the street frontages there. And the building which you see on the back left corner of that image is the residences that are being added with Avalon Bay. So that's 350 apartments. And this was actually a part of a 40R district. So those apartments through the 40R district actually helped the city of Woburn to achieve their 10% affordability threshold as part of the DHCD requirements. All right, so let's try this polling again, and hopefully you can connect. I'll post the link into the chat again, just so if you missed it the first time, you can get there. But the question is, do you have any questions or comments about this information I presented so far? Meredith has tested successfully, it looks like. And the other feature that you can use on this type of question is there's a up or down voting. So when you see one of your fellow stakeholder colleagues put in a comment, if that's a comment or question that you think is important, you can elevate that question by giving it a +1 or a -1 if you don't think it's that important. So I'll just let this go for a couple minutes, not a couple minutes, I'll let it go for a minute or so, so that you can all type in your responses. So far, it looks like there's no questions raised from the introduction. And you can also enter them if you have something into the Zoom question as well. Question is multifamily development being considered? I would say at this point, we don't really know. We're I think, approaching this relatively with an open mind and trying to respond to what you all are saying in this first meeting, and then hearing what people have to say throughout the process. But we don't have sort of initial assumptions about what should be a recommendation for zoning changes. But I will say, though, as the case studies which I presented point to, that diversification of uses in some manner, it has been a model of success for this type of future transformation of these types of districts. Okay, so not seeing too many others. I do have a series of questions that I'd like to get through. So we'll just go ahead and advance on to the next portion of the presentation. So really this is, to me, the exciting part and the focus of why we're here this evening is to hear from all of you. And so I have a series of questions which are designed to do just that, to get as much information out of your collective experience with the district, so that we can use it to help us guide where we head with this work. So again, if you could connect to the pollev.com MAPC MTG, that's also in the chat on the Zoom. And the other thing I'll invite people to do as we enter this period too. If you'd prefer to make a verbal comment, I have the participant list open, so please do raise your hand if you can find that function in your participant feature, or you can raise your hand in the video, and we can also recognize people verbally. I'm trying to expand my grid of video screens here so I can see you all. So let's get to the first question, and feel free to please get us information whichever way you feel most comfortable. So first is what works in the Donald Lynch Boulevard area today. So what are the features that are going well? What should not be changed or disturbed, or in fact, what should be preserved and upheld? What's working really well? So that will help us get an understanding of what your perspectives are. Give it a minute, no responses yet. Hopefully you all will warm up to this series of questioning, because this is, we're hoping to gather some useful information this evening. So it does look like I'm also looking in the web feature just in case our interactive Zoom session isn't working here. All right, so it's nice to have the current retail amenities. Hopefully we can keep those. Agreed with that. And good vehicular accessibility. The highway access is excellent to the district. So that's like a really good point.
Josh, there's a couple of responses in the chat as well. New England Sports Center works is a unique feature. Changes should be based on that asset. And then also asking if we have evaluated whether or not direct access off of Route 495 is achievable.
Great. Thank you, Meredith. To my knowledge, I don't know if there has been a previous evaluation of direct access off Route 495. We can see if there's been any previous study around that. In our study, I don't think we'll have the ability to study that in great detail, but we may be able to look at it in a very high level, conceptual level, just to even give it an initial sniff test.
Not in my time. Not something that we've talked about in my time, but I'm sure that it's something that's been floated around, and we can try to get some more information about that.
Okay, so I'll keep going along here since I've got a whole series of questions. The next is the flip side of that. What doesn't work in Donald Lynch Boulevard area? What's not been going as well, or what's been a constant either an issue or concern, something that has been impeding progress, perhaps, whatever you think falls into that category.
Is there anybody that would like to speak? Please feel free to do so as well. You don't need to just respond via the chat. I'm happy to let people speak freely as well.
I've also, I've just given you all a nod of great trust. I've made it so you're able to unmute yourself. And so if you do want to just speak up, you're able to do that. Hopefully we don't have any Zoom bombers out there lurking, but you should be able to do that now.
Hey, Josh, this is Mike Ossing.
Yes, Mike.
Nice job. One of the things, I mean, I'm trying to watch any comments, and I'm having some difficulty on the polling thing to see it work. But I would like the business and their representatives that are on the call today, and anyone else that's interested, if they have an opportunity to speak or send you or MEDC comments on what they like. Because again, you know, Councilors Tenera and Irish are sponsoring a potential change. We want to make sure that Donald Lynch Boulevard continues to thrive and survive. And we've been approached by several developers for some mixed use items, drive-throughs, other type items. And that's what we're looking for, the input of the folks that actually are there right now. What do they need, or what zoning changes would they like to see to help that area improve? And similarly, if there's anybody else that's listening in that wants to have those comments, we're looking for that type of feedback. And I think that's important. I just don't know. I'm just going back from when we did the neighborhood business district and the Route 20. We're all at a table, and the interaction back and forth was really good. And I'm just, you know, I just want to make sure that the participants that are on the phone, if the chat thing's not working like you want it to, that they get a chance to speak. So, you know, thank you for unmuting me. I'll mute myself now and look forward to hearing comments from the participants.
Thank you, Councilor.
I'd be happy to speak on behalf of Crossroads School. We're at 295 Donald Lynch. So we're a school serving individuals with autism. We have a large workforce of millennials who are desperately in need of more coffee shops and lunch places for sure, and more things in the immediate vicinity, you know, after work. As far as entertainment, we spend a lot of time going towards the Apex, but it'd be great if there was more near us, as opportunities for our students to get more vocational employment nearby the school. We're typically driving 15-20 minutes to find businesses to partner with. So more of that would be what we're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Great input. Thank you so much for that.
Hi, speaking on behalf of 325 Donald Lynch Boulevard, we would echo those same sentiments. I think having, you know, some more available amenities that office uses could walk to, or easily get to, or do a drive-through for lunch would be a little bit better. We tend to find that we lose tenants because they want to go more towards the Apex Center where things are easy to get to. So it is pulling tenants and other uses away from Donald Lynch Boulevard without those uses.
Great, thank you for that. So this is fantastic. Let's keep this going. I love the verbal comments, and I will just go ahead and keep advancing. So those of you who are, it does look like some people are able to use the polling feature, so you can keep providing information that way. But let's also, I encourage everyone to just keep up with the verbal comments as well. The next question is specifically, what would you like this study to accomplish? But if you have comments on that, or just anything else you want to provide verbally as well, we're open to whatever you'd like to riff on. And I will make a note too, before this video gets too long for people, if you're actually viewing this as a recording, you can feel free to send an email to us as well, so you can participate and provide us your thoughts on any of these issues. And you can send that email to me, Josh Fiala, at jfiala, so that's JFIALA @mapc.org. And then I'll include any of your feedback that we receive later on in this same information. So thank you for that.
Josh, even if we kind of could skip through the questions too, just to kind of get people thinking, and then, you know, if folks want to pipe up, if they're, you know, you feel compelled to speak on any one of the questions, or
Sure.
we can try to spark some convo.
So
This
the
is
next,
for the owner of 325 again. We do have some things that we were hoping to accomplish from this study. I just mentioned a couple of them with more amenities in the area, but we're also thinking more flexibility on mixed use opportunities. I think potential for blended uses using adjacent parking if we don't meet the parking restrictions, or maybe having some flex parking requirements, which make more uses available. Potential multifamily uses, maybe 40B dense housing on large unused lots. There's a number of things that we're looking for out of this study.
great, thank you.
Seeing in the chat too, a couple of comments about directional signage, you know, that also came up, you know, a couple of years ago, folks talking about being on 290, you really don't know what's over on Donald Lynch, so that might be something that's helpful. I don't know if anybody else, you know, feels that pain as well. I'm sure that the mall, you know, folks like that, would be nice to have some signage that shows you where to go.
So I'll just continue flipping through these, and we can, you can consider any of them. So specifically, we've heard some already about zoning vision or zoning, potential zoning changes that you'd like to see. So if you have any additional specific comments about that. And then also specific comments about the public realm, where if there are specific issues about dangerous locations or places where it's difficult to walk or bike, anything like that would be good to know. And then if we had to pick a top priority for what needs to get accomplished for the district, what would that be?
Hi,
And then maybe yeah, go ahead, Art.
my name is Art Bergeron. I'm just going to add. So I was involved with MEDC for quite a while, and I would just say that I think one of the most important, going back to the point of the district and the point of the study, I think one of the most important things would be to have the study be a vehicle through which the various owners of these properties start looking as how together they cause added value to occur there. As I know there's always a tendency to be saying, for us, we've got an employee, we need a coffee shop, we need this. But I think more globally, I think I have a sense of this area as being, you know, potentially part of a sinking ship or part of a really good place, depending on if the mall really goes south, if that really goes bad. But on the other hand, you've got this amazing, the resource at New England Sports Center. You have this incredible access to 290, but the real question is how everybody can participate in that. Like, and I think that the notion that was just mentioned by the gentleman from 325, the notion, for example, of using of figuring out how all of that parking space, all the parking that is there can benefit everybody. Those could be really, really positive. Those could be really positive things. But this needs to be, I think, for this to be successful, this needs to be a vehicle through which these very, very large owners of substantial assets are thinking how they collectively can enhance value by working together.
Thank you for that. It's great.
Specific question for I know we have a lot of brokers in the room here. Is there anybody, you know, a tenant that's come through or a tenant that you've had that's looking interested in Marlborough, or, you know, and the use didn't fit here, or, you know, that you thought that there was a building that could work really well, and then, oh, you know, that's not something that's allowed in the code. Has anybody ever bumped into something like that?
Meredith, it's Bill Bailey.
Hi, Bill.
Hello. I don't think that's the issue. I think that the city has been very accommodating and accessible for those issues. I think having kind of dealt with the project through many years prior to all this development, what it's lacking is a vibe and identity. It always feels like it's on the edge of where everything else is happening. And although the mall was to be the magnet and the hockey rink was to draw some weekend activity and create some excitement, it still does, but it's stale. It needs a vibe. It needs something that identifies it and makes it unique. And I don't know if that's, bringing in additional food services, beer gardens, taking advantage of the Assabet River for kayaking, holding events. I mean, COVID obviously creates some hurdles to get through with public places and things of that nature, or holding, open air concerts, or just something that makes it more than a mall and a hockey rink. It needs to re-identify, reimagine itself as something different. And it may be bringing in some senior housing. It may be bringing in medical uses, something that draws people to that location. And it may need to be supported by shuttle services that go beyond Marlborough, that go out to other areas, and get people coming back to it for reasons other than just to shop and leave, or to go to work and leave, or show up in a hockey rink and spend the weekend and leave. They're going to Apex when those families come in, and that's, I think, changed something. So that kind of, there's a lot in there, but those would be the things that I start to think about, is how do you get a medical use to support the community and change it up and take advantage of some of this dormant retail, and get traffic back there and help other services as well. So that's probably more than my 2 cents. There's a nickel's worth in there.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. I know we've got some mall guys, on the call here as well. I mean, any thoughts, anybody, even just generally the future of malls, what are other parts of the country? What are people doing? Things that we should be thinking about, to Arthur's point, holistically, the whole region, this whole area, not just specific properties.
Hi, this is Tim Fox. I'm with Simon Property Group. We own the Solomon Pond Mall.
Hi, Tim.
I apologize. I've been kind of in and out of the meeting trying to help my wife put our kids to bed, so I may have missed parts. I did want to first say thanks for hosting the event and appreciate the input that you're soliciting. As you know, I think our business is quite challenged now more than ever. Even before COVID, there were some significant headwinds just dealing with brick and mortar retail and the competition. So, a big thing for us as we look at this process would be, flexibility within the process. I had put in one of the comments from one of the prior questions that Josh had posted, that the existing zoning is it's limiting the owner's use of the property. One example would be, just down to 90, we also own the Auburn Mall, and we did a pretty successful redevelopment of the Macy's home store there into Reliant Medical. And in the existing zoning, that wouldn't be possible because medical office use is prohibited. So for us, I think we are seeing the change of our properties throughout the country, and we're doing our best to be proactive in that regard. Each property is different, and this is certainly the case at Solomon Pond Mall. But being flexible and kind of being able to be creative in how we can improve each place moving forward is important to us.
Thank you, Tim. That's very helpful.
Hey, Tim, this is Mike Ossing. So the mall being one of the biggest anchors down there, we're really looking for you and your people's input as to where do you think the mall's going to go? In any insights you may have, if medical's the right one, or mixed use housing is part of it. We're hungry for that kind of input. So anything you guys have seen in across the country, or you think that we can help, because we want the mall to survive. But I'll be candid, I don't know what the mall looks like a handful of years from now, but you guys, running the mall kind of have an idea where things are going. So if you see something that you think you need, now's the time to strike, and we'd like to at least consider it and see if that's something that would pass the test through the city.
Thank you. Yeah, we certainly appreciate that, and we obviously want them all to succeed as well. And I don't think that there's necessarily a silver bullet for one answer or one size fits all that would work across the board. I had mentioned the project we did at Auburn Mall with Reliant Medical, but and Josh had referenced some other examples of retail properties that have been successful in various different redevelopment scenarios. And I think there's different challenges and benefits of each property, and I think we just have to be thoughtful about what we're doing and making sure that works in Marlborough, and the property is kind of split into with Berlin, but in Marlborough and Berlin, and the best answer in Auburn might not be the right answer in Marlborough, and I'm not sure this is the forum for me to be offering too much information, but I'm happy to be engaging in these conversations moving forward, without a doubt.
I know we've got some folks from New England Development as well. RK Centers is on. Anybody that has any feedback, again, to echo President Ossing's comments, we're hungry for your feedback. See what you guys would like. I know DCU is also on the call. I don't know what you guys are hearing from your employees of things that they'd like to see. Anything that would help make us, shape this area of the city to really be dynamic. Here's your chance, right? Let's throw it against the wall, see if it sticks.
So Meredith, Paul Sincotta and Josh, Paul Sincotta from New England Development.
Hi, Paul.
We, as you may recall, we were recently talking about, so New England Development owns what was the former Sports Authority in Old Navy space, which has been vacant for some time now. We happen to have interest in a use that's not currently allowed. And we were talking about it recently with you folks. It's a self-storage use. Whether that's consistent with the vision for the entire corridor will be something that gets flushed out of this. But I guess what we would offer is that for a property that's been vacant for some time, it's been hard, certainly to attract more retail uses, as Tim mentions. It's a really challenged environment before COVID set in, and certainly even more challenging now for retail. So try to reutilize that asset and attract a use that both satisfies the vision that the city has, as well as bring some some economics that make sense to that property, and also returns the property to real a revenue generator that it once was, before it became vacant.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate your comments.
Meredith, do you mind if I chime in here?
Absolutely. Kevin, thank you. Thanks for being here. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm Kevin Kuros. I'm with the Mass Office of Business Development. I was here primarily to listen, but something that has just really struck me in listening to some of the commentary here is the notion that literally everyone who works in this entire zone or area has to drive to work. And I think any large scale planning effort like this should probably include some provision of last mile transportation or something like that, or some other options relative to helping people get to work. Literally everybody that works at DCU there, which is a pretty big building with a lot of employees, has to drive to work, and certainly trying to bridge that transportation component of this might help all the businesses that are ultimately located there.
That's a great point. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that.
Any other voices we haven't heard yet this evening? So been exceptional comments. Thank you for everyone. I'll just keep rotating through these questions too. It does look like we're getting more and more responses as we just leave them on the screen.
Not sure if everyone can see the responses. It's just trying to call some out. Where some folks are saying pop-up establishments are good for small business. Better signage is important. I did see a few things earlier about food trucks, walkability, things like that. So some really great, thoughtful responses from everybody. Appreciate your participation.
Yeah, and we'll put together a summary of all the feedback that we've received at this meeting and get that over to Meredith and the city so that can be posted along with the recording of this presentation as well.
Yeah, if everybody doesn't mind, just putting your email address or contact information in the chat if you don't think we have it. We'd love to be able to keep people informed with the process.
Hi, Attorney Austin here. I'm not sure I lost track of some of the comments, but I think part of the cohesiveness issue, if you go down Donald Lynch Boulevard to do something, whether it's, go to the skating rink or to go to the mall, it's the only thing that you can do there. Most people don't, there's no drive-through, right? There's no bank. I think there's not I think biking is hugely important now in walkable communities and a variety of things. But I think the key is to really make it so that, if you simply look at what folks do when they go out, if they're going to go to that area, for them to be able to accomplish more than one task or goal, right? Because everybody's time is so stretched. So drive-throughs, you want to be able to get a cup of coffee, go to the bank, pick up the present at the mall, and hit the grocery store on the way back. And if you head out there from the center of the city, you're looking at a 15-minute drive, right? So, or maybe 10, depends. If Arthur Bergeron's driving, it's only 7 minutes. But if anybody else is driving, it might take 15. And so if you're gonna go there, you gotta be able to do enough stuff there to make it worth your time. And it used to be that folks would do their shopping at the mall for a type of thing and it would be enough, but that's not enough anymore. And I also know that I've heard people say when they go down to New England Sports Center, then they leave there there's nothing immediately right there to do, or to, can't run through to the bank unless you go to the DCU at the end. There's no place to just grab a cup of coffee or any of that kind of stuff. So.
Thanks, Sandy. We're getting similar comments in the poll as well, about kind of a live, work, play concept. So I think that that's exactly your point, and appreciate you making that point.
Okay, well, I've got a few other questions that I didn't scroll through yet that were more related to engaging stakeholders such as yourselves. And if you had any suggestions about other ways to engage people with this process, or to help you all stay engaged with this process as well. So if we've collected some emails, is an occasional email check-in the best, or is another meeting such as this one the most convenient? What would be the best way to keep you all updated as this process continues?
I'm getting a lot of email addresses being directly sent as well. So thank you, everybody, for responding. And I think email will be our, primary mode of communication. But if there's something else that you prefer, please let us know. And I'm happy to chat with anybody offline. If everybody would like to have a phone conversation to kind of talk through this, available at your earliest convenience.
Well, not to belabor it too much, but we'll do one last call. If anyone else has a comment they'd like to sneak in that they haven't had a chance to mention yet, just pause briefly.
This is Matt Russell from 325 Donald Lynch again. Just to echo what Meredith just said, I think the concept of live, work, play area is really what this area needs. It would make it more of a destination. I think there are residential uses around that area too, which you could draw in if you create that type of an environment. And not only would that be better for the area, for I think everyone who's currently on the road, but it would be better for future uses, future tenants. It would draw more people into the area just to have that mixed use of amenities, housing, drive-through, kind of different uses that people can spend time there. To Sandy Austin's point, when they come to that area, there's more than just the one thing that brought them there.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, so I'll just briefly touch base on where this is headed. So we'll continue looking at the district from a number of angles, and then pretty quickly start to dive into considering land use and zoning goals and strategies based upon everything you've told us this evening. And then we'll be discussing some of those ideas sort of in a smaller group setting with the city, just to see what ideas seem like they're a good approach and which ones we'd want to bring forward. And then we'll have another stakeholder meeting such as this one, where hopefully we can get many of you to join us again. And that would likely be in the end of January, beginning of February timeframe in 2021. And that would be more focused on what those, how the draft recommendations are beginning to take shape, and to get your feedback on them before they start to move much further. And we'll also be checking in, as has been mentioned, the town of Berlin has a sizable portion of some of the properties that are a part of the district. So we'll be checking in with them and seeing what their goals and ambitions are for the area as well. Meredith, anything you'd like to add to all that?
No, I just want to thank everybody, not only for joining, but hanging with us, and appreciate you taking time out of your night and sharing your thoughts, and we look forward to working with everybody to put together a good product to present to the City Council.
I agree with that. So thank you everyone for joining us. Again, if you'd like to reach out to either Meredith or myself directly, please do that. I will, I guess, before I shut down the meeting real quick, I'll very quickly enter my own email address. And if you'd like to send me a direct message, please do get in touch with me as well. And I'd be happy to follow up with any of you one-on-one.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for leading the charge here.
Thank you all. It's been a great conversation. We're really excited to work on this more with all of you.
Josh, Meredith, thank you. Have a good night.
Have a great night, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.